A Death in the White House. Written and narrated by David Pickering. Good morning, a very good morning to you all. The President of the United States of America, well into his 8th decade now, still revels in the way the staffers lower their eyes, the way the security men stand to attention, the way the guys in suits converge upon him with their reports and messages from across the whole of the United Lovely States, from around the goddamn world even, from places he's never even heard of. If he acknowledges them, he knows every individual before him will treasure that moment forever. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. Another day in the continuing history of the White House, steering the affairs of the most powerful nation on earth. He knows there are many enemies and critics outside, people who wouldn't bat an eyelid to see him dead. But in here he is supreme. He is God. And he's still got it, goddamn. They're forever warning him about assassins and madmen who hate his guts, about narrowly averted plots and schemes, but he's still here. Yes, sir, he is. Still the man at the top. He waves an aged, affable hand and approaches the open door of the elevator. A uniformed aide, one of the many minions with forgettable faces and unretrievable names, raises a hand apologetically to stop him. Not that way, sir, if you please, sir. The elevator is not in use today, sir. What's that? I can't use it? Sorry, sir. I'm the President of the United States and I can't use the elevator. He means it to sound jovial, but senses he hasn't concealed his irritation as well as he might have. No, sir. Sorry, sir. If you walk into it, you'll go straight down to the basement and nothing to break your fall, and we wouldn't want that, sir. The President peers down the shaft. It looks deep, dark, and gloomy. From somewhere comes the distant sound of an electric drill. He frowns. He feels especially old this morning for some reason. I gotta use the stairs. The stairs are fine, sir. That's the route we recommend. A sigh escapes his lips. But you'll get the elevator finished soon. Of course, sir. It's just for today, sir. There's been a delay getting the parts, sir, that's all. Where do the parts come from? Japan, sir. Japan? Can we get them from here in the States? It'll cost a lot more, sir. This is the White House. Surely we can find some guy stateside to do the job, can't we? God damn it, does he have to do everything around here? Yes, sir. By tomorrow, yeah? Yes, sir. Jesus. The President is beginning to wish he hadn't ordered this overhaul of the West Wing. It had been his idea, though, one of the first initiatives when he took office, and a symbol of the changes his administration would oversee throughout the nation, in every sphere of life. He can hardly back out now. The White House already included 6 stories, with 132 rooms. The existing complex included 35 bathrooms, 3 elevators, 412 doors, 147 windows, 38 fireplaces, 8 staircases, a tennis court, a single-lane bowling alley, a movie theatre, a jogging track, a swimming pool, and a putting green. To this, he is adding a whole new top floor, with, among other essential facilities, a sauna, a bar reserved for the entertainment of only the most eminent of visitors, and a private balcony from which he will be able to enjoy much improved views of the capital of the vast nation over which he exercises supreme authority. He's looking forward to that. He climbs the stairs, breathing hard, followed by a gaggle of aides. He reminds himself that the Oval Office is among the rooms being revamped and carries on up to the topmost floor, where a new, half-decorated office has been cleared for his temporary use while the work continues below. Everything is very bare, with wires sticking out from the wall where lights and cameras have yet to be fitted. By the time he gets there, he is out of breath and has to take a moment before greeting his personal staff. Good day to you all. How are you, Mandy? Christ, I nearly got her name wrong. That's not the first time lately, either. I'd better not be getting Alzheimer's or something. Just dandy, sir. Thank you, sir. She's thanking me for the fact she feels dandy. I did that. She feels dandy because of me, just because I'm here. I feel great. I don't care what they say in the press about me being too old for the job. Christ, no. I feel strong. I could do anything today. And I've got a whole country behind me. The greatest country in the world. God's country. And all the polls are on our side. God bless America. While others bustle about him, he contemplates the huge portrait of George Washington, which has already been moved up here. The first and greatest of all the presidents. Of course, he had it easy, that guy, being the first, with no one to be compared with, and then having the fortunate opportunity to lead the nation in a desperate bloody war. Lucky swine. But surely anyone with any sense and that amount of luck could have done what he did. It wasn't as though the opposition he faced was up to much. What was it George III wrote in his diary on the day the Declaration of Independence was issued in 1776? Nothing much happened today. Limey sap. He wonders, not for the first time, if he will be remembered with the same adulation with which the first president still is. Not many of his successors are. Of the recent holders of the office, only a few will stay in the memory, and then only for all the wrong reasons. One sure way to be remembered for keeps, he knows, is to be assassinated. Everyone remembers the assassinated presidents. Lincoln, Kennedy, that other guy. More than once lately, he has caught himself deliberately lingering in front of windows or in front of crowds as though inviting the bullet to be fired. Today he gives a little shudder at his own recklessness. While the president imagines himself in portrait pose, perhaps mounted on a white stallion, an aide runs quickly and efficiently through his diary commitments. He finishes with a passing reference to an impending royal visit by the British monarch. The president has forgotten about that. His heart gives a little lurch at the reminder, and he experiences a stab of panic. There is strict etiquette to be observed, stuff he knows nothing about. What is the proper form of address? Do I bow first, or do I wait for them to bow? What do I call them? Oh, God damn it, I don't want to look like a damn fool. Will someone brief me about that? There must be a book or something. I'll find one for you, sir. And give me something to say. Something, something educated. He is still thinking about the impending royal visit as the aide closes his file and backs towards the elevator. Watch out, son. Mind the elevator. We don't want to be scraping you off the basement floor. The aide registers the black void beyond the elevator doors and flushes with embarrassment before scuttling off by a safer route. The president is kept busy with relatively minor issues all morning. After lunch with a couple of advisers, the usual fare, nothing fancy that might provoke his querulous, aging stomach, his wife calls in to ask if he's remembered he's coming with her to a viewing of new art at the Smithsonian that evening. He groans inwardly. Something else he has forgotten. What's the matter with his memory these days? He forces a smile. Of course he has remembered. Nothing he would like better. His wife is considerably younger than he is, and he watches her leave with a wistful glint in his eye. How those hips sway. She's really got a figure on her. There's no denying it. Then another shoal of aides surrounds him with papers to sign and chits to authorize. God, it's all so tedious, and they all expect me to hang on their every word. All I really want to do just now is close my eyes and have a nap. The noise is starting to get to him, and he can feel one of his headaches coming on. Much more of this, and he won't be able to think straight. Finally, he can take no more of it. Besides, he has a private meeting scheduled for later that afternoon, one in which very privileged information may be discussed. He puts on his stern face and orders everyone out. Staffers, security, everyone. Within seconds, the topmost floor is deserted. He breathes out slowly. Some peace at last. He settles into the vast leather chair at his desk and slips into a satisfying doze. An hour or so later, he stirs and reluctantly flips open his diary. The diary confirms that the bulk of the rest of the afternoon is to be taken up with an almost certainly fractious and discomforting meeting with the infuriatingly young and horribly foul-mouthed vice president. After that, he's slated to visit some new IT place a short drive away. The president's lips tighten at the thought of the impending appointment. The little snake, demanding lengthy private meetings with me like he has a right to. What's he want from me this time? He knows he's got me over a barrel. He's got a lot of backers in the Senate and among the more conservative elements in the party. Otherwise, I'd never have picked him as my running mate in the first place. I know he's just waiting for his chance to shove me aside, the traitorous wretch. The president knows all too well how his underling cuts corners and makes the dodgiest of deals, but to date he's proved just too damn slimy to pin down. He closes his eyes and thrusts thoughts of the expected visitor away, savouring the stillness about him. The extended idyll lasts about 30 seconds more, and then the vice president strides in, as vigorously youthful as ever, not even pausing to knock at the door. The president forces himself back to full wakefulness. Once seated opposite him, the vice president has a great deal to say about a great many things, and all in the very worst language. The president winces at the invective pouring out of the other man, as first he pushes a policy that the president has already ruled out a dozen times, and second heaps scorn upon another policy that ranks high among the president's pet projects. "Let's face it," the vice president challenges, eyes narrowed to slits. "That idea's fucked." "Now, hold on, John. It won't run. That fucking fucker's fucking fucked." "Whoa! Just stop right there, John. You can't talk like that here. Not in the White House. Not in my White House, anyways. If I've told you once, I've told you a whole bunch of times. I won't have it. The nation looks to us to set a standard, John. We can't be heard saying things like that. Who the fuck's going to hear us? There's no one else fucking here. That's enough of that. Can't you at least find something a bit less offensive to say?" The vice president swears again under his breath. "No, I mean it, John. It's not the 70s. I'm not Richard Nixon. I know he was way before your time, but look what happened to him. We came to power promising to fight moral decay, and swearing like a trooper is a symptom of that decay. I'm meeting the King of England next week, for fuck's sake. Oh, heck, you got me doing it now." The vice president's lip curls. "What do you want me to say? Golly gumdrops, hot diggity dog, zoons?" The president taps the desk with his fingers and reminds himself to buy the man a dictionary for Christmas. The vice president launches into another withering tirade, this time accusing him, more or less, of adopting the moral decay line just for electoral purposes. Well, that may have been true, but he doesn't need his second-in-command, of all people, pointing it out to him. Then, as he so often does, the young man steers the conversation back almost seamlessly to the issues he wants presidential backing on. The president finds himself switching off, doing what he always does when his critics demand things of him, giving the impression that he is listening carefully, nodding from time to time, and asking pertinent questions without ever once committing himself to any particular course of action. Halfway through, they break for coffee, which, on the president's personal orders, is as good as any coffee that can be had anywhere in the world. A damn sight better than the swill they served up during the previous incumbency, anyway. The horror, the horror. The phrase pops into his mind as the coffee is poured. Where the hell does that come from? I'm sure I know, but I can't quite place it. Am I becoming senile? The vice president waits until they are alone again before resuming his rant. The president observes, not for the first time, that he has a peculiarly little mouth, pursed and, to his mind, quite feminine. But he really fancies himself, the disloyal bastard, really fancies his chances of a presidential nomination after me. He's a treacherous, handsome, useful little upstart. I don't get what the voters see in him beyond his boyish good looks. He's great in front of the cameras, of course, but one-to-one, like this, he has all the charisma of a dead jellyfish. He just drifts along with the latest current, poisoning anyone who comes in reach. Oh, how I would enjoy poking him with a sharp stick. Thanks to the CIA, he knows much more about his vice president than his vice president thinks he knows. The man before him has everyone, and doesn't the president know it? All the sordid little details, the underhand little sexual exchanges, every line of his seductive spiel, his practiced ways of winning the ladies over, every last lascivious moan and sigh and grunt. Reading that very fat file on him, you'd think he was one of the Kennedys. Voters of all persuasions still seem to find him impressive nonetheless. It's just that he, the president, doesn't like his mouth, the way he sucks at the coffee and drinks it without apparently tasting it, as though he only drinks it because it's there, or because it's the president's coffee and he has the opportunity to drink it. You should drink that coffee and appreciate it, the president thinks, because it's unlikely you'll taste better now or ever, you cock-sucking, ass-licking, coffin-hanging, foul-mouthed little bastard. But the president says nothing further of his thoughts as he deliberately savours the coffee, and his visitor continues his harangue for another 3/4 of an hour. At the end of that time, a little buzz from the president's watch tells him that the time is up and he can finally be rid of him. He rises from his chair with a benevolent smile. "Well, it's been a fruitful meeting, John, and you've given me a great deal to think about. Yes, sir, a very great deal." The vice president looks pleased and sour at the same time. How does he do that, wonders the president. I could do with learning that myself. The president checks at the sight of that half-smile. Did I promise him something? I didn't commit myself, did I? No, I don't think I did. I need to get ready for that visit to the IT place. I'll go downstairs and check nothing's come up that needs an immediate response, then tell them to call up the car. All right, John, it's been great. See you Tuesday. He doesn't like the way the vice president, his arms full of papers, half bows to him, but superciliously, like he doesn't really mean it, like it's an insult even, like he thinks he knows something the president doesn't. But he does know, the president tells himself. Oh boy, he does. The vice president makes for the stairs. "The elevator's quicker," the president says automatically, still thinking about the vice president's small, annoying mouth and the things the vice president doesn't think he knows. As he indicates the entrance to the elevator, something occurs to him, something he ought to say, but somehow his mouth doesn't open. No sound comes out. Instead, he just steps forward a pace or two, muttering something or other, he's not sure what. The vice president is distracted, looking down at the documents in his hands and rearranging them into a more desirable order, even holding one of the files between his teeth while sorting the others with his soft young man's hands. He steps without looking into the empty shaft. The president holds his breath as his vice president vanishes silently downwards. Everything is suddenly very still. Then there is a small, far-away thump. For a long moment, the president contemplates the yawning gap where the lift cage should be, then peers cautiously over the lip of the opening. He remains like that for a good 10 seconds. He feels surprised, and yet not surprised. Then, noting the emptiness of the deserted corridor, he gives a little grunt and heads for the stairs. It is only when he is in the presidential car heading away from the White House 10 minutes later, and no alarm raised, that the president dares to question himself. Suddenly it's the only thing on his mind. What have I done? Did I let it happen deliberately? Am I evil? If I let it happen, is that any different to causing it to happen? Either way, is this not an example of the worst kind of moral decay? Don't I oppose moral decay? Don't I? Do I even have views about it? The horror, the horror. There was that line again. What the devil was it from? The president's brow furrows. He's really got to get a hold of himself. He leans forward to ask the Secret Service agent in the front passenger seat if he knows. The agent shoots him a surprised glance in the mirror. It's from Conrad, sir. What? Joseph Conrad, the novelist. No, that's not it, the president replies testily. It's from a film. You must know it. Wait, it is coming to me. Apocalypse something. Apocalypse Now, sir? Yes, that's the one. I'm amazed you don't know it. Christ, the education in this country needs sorting out, and that's a fact. I need to give it more attention. He has a sudden inclination to visit a school, any school, right now. Remind me, he says. Where are we going? We're on our way to a new IT facility, sir. Scratch that. I want to go to the nearest school instead. But, sir, they're expecting us. Any school. I don't care which. My old school is only a couple of blocks away, the driver, a genial but nervous-looking black guy, offers helpfully. That'll do just fine. Go straight there. But, sir, that's an order. The Secret Service man talks discreetly into his lapel, passing on the change in destination. The President sinks back in his seat, reveling in the panic he knows he is causing among the security people, the changes they will have to make immediately, at once, without argument, the flurry of phone calls, chairs tipping over backward, Coca-Cola spilling. Well, let them work for their money for once. Somehow the press are already set up with their cameras and reporters when they arrive at the school. Fine, it'll look good. The President makes impromptu call on neighborhood school. The staff look terrified as the security men clear the way into the building for him. The kids are delightful, although he doesn't understand everything they say, and they seem overexcited by his appearance among them. In the end, he has to signal to the staff to silence them. Then he picks one of the kids out for personal attention. For the benefit of the photographers, he positions himself so they get his best side, while the infant shows him her latest bit of writing, something about feeding poor orphans in Africa. That's not how we spell tomatoes, he tells her. There's no E, he explains with exaggerated kindness. After that, he makes a direct address to the cameras, stressing his appreciation for the great work of the teachers of America and his unflinching determination to reverse the unforgivable decline in educational standards that he has personally identified. He's assuring the nation that new legislation is already in preparation to correct matters when an aide presses his elbow and whispers urgently in his ear. The President assumes an expression of appalled disbelief. Oh my God, really? You're kidding. You're sure about this? I was with him only an hour ago. The elevator, you say? Poor guy. He lowers his voice. We'd better pack up here and get back. Fill me in with the details in the car. I want the best people on this. He indicates the gaggle of reporters. Get someone to say something for me to these guys. Something personal. Say I'm too upset to talk to them just now. Within the hour, the director of the CIA himself has given him a full report. The evidence suggests a tragic accident. The contractors will get it in the neck over the lack of proper signage. The President breaks in to say that only that morning he himself had nearly done exactly the same thing. Clearly, someone is to blame. He demurs, however, when an immediate arrest is proposed. There is no mileage in persecuting anyone unreasonably over what was probably a mere act of inattention, he tells them ruefully. It was just one of those things, senseless and regrettable. Life, he concludes with a shake of the head, is sadly all too often like that. His informant agrees completely and sees no virtue in turning it into a huge scandal. When he gets back to the executive residence at the White House some while later, the President notes the discarded used tissues and the stricken look on his wife's face. You've heard the news, then? Yes. She's trying not to cry, but there are tears running down her cheeks. Yeah, he was a good guy. It's always the best ones. We've released a statement, and I'll speak to the nation properly about it tomorrow morning. Say what a good guy he was. He was such a young and good-looking fella, too, he adds offhandedly. Reminded me a little of me when I was younger. No close family to send messages to, I'm told. He pauses. Of course, you knew him a lot longer than I did. Right back to senior high, wasn't it? His wife pulls forth another tissue and rushes out. She doesn't want me to see how upset she is. That's thoughtful of her. He calls up the stairs after her. What time are we due at the Smithsonian? We don't want to be late. He can hear her crying, full throttle, even though distantly. He listens a bit more, and then he smiles. Unfaithful bitch. It wasn't the unfaithfulness so much as her assumption that he didn't know anything about it. Well, he's known damn well for a long time. One good thing about being president, you can rely upon the CIA to tell you anything you want to know. As for that young bastard telling him what he could and couldn't do, Well, it was just too bad. Perhaps he should have said something about that elevator, something like, "The fucking fuckers fucking fucked." But he could never use language like that. It was indecent. Someone had to set a standard, and when things go too far, someone has to do something. Who will, if not him? He is the president, after all. He can do anything at all. Anything. Neat. The event at the Smithsonian passes smoothly enough, although the First Lady is uncommunicative and everyone seems a little jumpy. No one refers to the recent tragedy. The President is careful not to smile in the many photos that are taken, for posterity's sake. He isn't sure about the art. Some of it disturbs him. At the end of a very long evening, he finds himself seated at his desk before going up to bed to join his wife, who has maintained her silence throughout. His pen is poised above his open diary. Comfortably tired, he ponders what to write. Eventually, grimly satisfied, he yawns and scrawls a single sentence under the date. "Nothing much happened today."